Whoa. I just had a random thought that turned into another random thought that turned into a complete paragraph. I um I was watching Black Panther, and I watched it with a friend this time. Don't laugh at me. I bootlegged it, um, in the home so that we could watch it. I've already seen it. I've already gone to the movies and seen it, so I don't feel too bad about bootlegging it. But I bootlegged it this time, and I had a friend come over, and we watched Black Panther, and she talked about how she was excited to see it, what all the hype was about. Now, I'm not going to give a mini review or anything because that's not what this podcast is about. Um, this podcast is about something completely different, but I think you'll understand it by the time we're done talking. Well, she loved it. She loved the action. She loved the explosions. It was one of the best Marvel movies that I'd seen, bar none. I had seen some of the critiques of it. Some people saying it was overrated. It's as good as any of the best of that the Marvel universe has. I'm a little sick of all the CG effects and all that, but that's par for the course of that film. What sparked my interest was the way that my friend absorbed the characters. She was very, and this is a spoiler, she was very upset when the villain Killmonger had died. She was really, really upset when Killmonger died. And she became very upset with the heroes of the story. She liked Black Panther, but she was upset that he prevailed over Killmonger. And I think about what Killmonger represents. And here's the kind of chilling part. I've heard other African Americans say things like Killmonger was right. And Killmonger, he great character, played to a T, perfect. I give the Killmonger character 4 stars for his just being a compelling villain. But he was still the villain nonetheless. And his points of view were detrimental to other people that were not his own. Well, watching this, after we had finished watching it, and she'd gone home, it made me think. I turned on YouTube, and from time to time I like to watch old fights, boxing, stuff like that. And I was watching the this fight where an African American boxer got knocked out by a white boxer. And for a brief instance, I got mad because the white boxer won. I got mad because a perfectly trained human being who had trained for that moment for however many months prevailed. And I got mad because of a moment of racial identification. I had to check myself on that one. I don't know who was a good human being, who was a bad human being. I have absolutely no idea. But in that moment of self-awareness, I began to think back. How many times had I been satisfied when there were fights with the underlying, Great White Hope theme? That really I had it, imposed upon a fight where, the two guys involved were like, man, I want to beat the shit out of this guy so I can get that purse money and walk away a millionaire several times over. because that's what it's ultimately about in that ring. And that is my lead in to what I want to talk about really briefly. I was kind of long-winded on that. Folks, bear with me. I think a lot of times we personalize stuff and we put on our racial blinders because of how we identify. I think sometimes those racial blinders blind us from good and evil, from right and wrong, sometimes from up and down. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in that. I mean, science has shown that instinctually, and I think there's all kinds of studies out there, but I point out that the sources that I found, that we relate to one another based off of familiar physical features as human beings. I think we evolve. I think I'm a good example of evolving because I am involved with so many different people in different racial backgrounds. I've been involved in serious relationships with women of different backgrounds. And each relationship brought its own, cool dynamic. But when it was gut check time, my instinct was to pull for the one that looked like me. That's fascinating. When I think about politics and I think about the way that we vote, I think you're seeing those instances where I felt a connection to a human being, be it Black Panther or the boxer. You feel a connection that's at an instinctual level that sometimes clouds your judgment at a cerebral, logical level. When people were voting, I had predicted, and several others had predicted, there would be an upswing in candidates voting different ways, but largely for the House and the Senate race, African Americans voted traditionally for the candidate for the party that they'd always voted for, and Republicans had done the same thing. Maxine Waters has no rivals, but then I look at the policy. I'm like, does she represent exactly what California is needing? California, frankly, needs an enema. It needs a big, fat enema. And Maxine Waters is right there. She's been there. That place is getting worse and worse. And here's the thing. While, the problems that California faces may not, directly be of her causing. There's a lot of factors that went into California looking like, basically a war zone in certain areas. It stands to reason that some questions have to be asked. While on your watch, have you been working with local government? And if you have, for all the years that you've been in office, it's steadily getting worse. It's not getting better for minorities, but they vote for. I remember during the Obama Mitt Romney campaign, people were demonizing Mitt Romney. Biden even said something about him. You're going to be something about back on the plantation. And Mitt Romney's not racist. We know that. Mitt Romney even has a reputation of being an incredibly nice guy. But racial cords were pulled to get people to vote a certain way. I don't believe Obama was any worse or any better than any other president that's come before. And whether you look at him as great or not depends upon the policies that you were interested in. Some of the policies that he managed to implement were of no concern to me because I didn't fit that audience. Everything else that I was interested in on his platform, that's the reason that he got my vote when he ran when he first ran. Had nothing to do with him being black. I was proud that he won as a black person, but I did understand how important that vote was for the country. And it wasn't just because it was historic. It was because I needed certain things to happen policy-wise that benefited me and my family. So, for me, there's this weird dual existence. I don't vote or cheer for people simply because of their color. But if I'm not self-aware, it's very easy to fall back into visual tribalism over who's actually, as opposed to who's actually good for what you're wanting in a candidate, and who's detrimental to who, as far as what you're wanting in a candidate. And I think that's humans' natural propensity. I think that's what we naturally do. And there are those that prey off of that. And this is why I think it's imperative that we continue to evolve as human beings so that we can see past color. Because if we continue to have our racial blinders on, out of passion for our people, our race, our individual races, we may make some horrible decisions. And I know people will be critical of me. I think that is one of the failings of Black America right now, is that we vote with our racial blinders on. I think we get duped into steering a certain way because we identify racially so strongly. I believe that is a major Achilles heel that we have to overcome. And I believe whites are affected in the same way. I think that everything that Obama couldn't do was polarized by the fact that he was black. I think a lot of stuff was polarized in the minds of certain people who thought he was going to do some things. And some of the policies fell through. Some of the policies were just flat out not good. And I think there was a tinge of anger that was facilitated by of instinct. White instinct. I believe there was a degree of that. But I also think that we're now on the brink of transcending racial identification as opposed to what's in it for me as an American citizen. I see conversations online, I'm hearing people that are voting for Trump that, you look at them, you're like, why are you voting for Trump? You're black. That's funny. Why are you voting for whatever candidate the Democratic Party can come up with? Right now, it's not looking too good. The pool is not looking very good. Beto is looking like a star, though. You need to watch that guy. He lost in Texas. But there's something about that one. And you're hearing it here. I'm calling that one he lost. But that one right there is a little different than the rest. Anyway, if we can learn to identify with facts, with action, if we allow the irrelevancy of race to die a quiet death, if we allow the element of race to die a quiet death, then our culture will further evolve into something that that the world hasn't seen. The only way that the world can be colorblind and we can take off our racial blinders is to fight it with facts, to fight it with evidence, to fight it with logic. Voting for somebody because they're black or because they're white undermines your power as a voter. And when you feel those instincts where you're cracking a smile because, you're black and the black guy is whooping a white guy's ass on some some YouTube video, recognize and be aware of what's happening in that instance. Start asking those secondary questions. What kind of people are the people that we're cheering for? Whether it's in the arena of sports, whether it's in the arena of politics, whether it's in the arena of music, whether it's in the arena of culture and society. For the most part, I've overcome feeling like that. There are instances when I feel a certain way, despite being against racism in all forms. There's a reason that racism even exists. And it's a powerful reason. But we have to fight against, sometimes we have to fight against our very nature in order to evolve into something more. Just a random thought for the day. And with that, it's time for that cup of coffee.